In the Middle East, Secretary of State Baker says he's ready to meet with Palestinians as violence continues in Israel. In Moscow, the biggest demonstration since the Russian Revolution, the crowd chants, "Gorbachev, resign." And in this country, former prisoners of war come home.
This is NBC Nightly News, reported by Garrick Utley.
Good evening. With the war now over, it's time to face the central conflict in the Middle East, Israel and the Palestinians. And that indeed is what Secretary of State James Baker was doing this day. He said he was prepared to meet with Palestinians in Israel when he goes to that country tomorrow. Now, Yasser Arafat and his aides will not be among them, but still, it's an important sign from the United States that it will push ahead to try to find a solution to this conflict. John Dancy is traveling with Baker.
Jim Baker hung out the open for business sign on his Middle East Peace Bazaar today and found, if not buyers, at least some Arab shoppers. As a blue light special, Baker offered today to meet with Palestinian leaders when he goes to Israel without asking whether they are members of the PLO, neatly finessing a question that could have put off potential Israeli buyers. The first task of Baker as shopkeeper was to find out whether the Arab states of the Persian Gulf are potential buyers of his vision of Middle East peace. Baker said he now sees a greater willingness on the part of the Arab states to get involved in the peace process. Saudi Foreign Minister Saud al-Faisal.
And as my friend Mr. Baker said, with boldness of vision and determined diplomacy, that even the most intractable issues can be resolved.
The Arab states did give Baker a sign of flexibility. A statement from the Arab states called for an international peace conference on the Middle East as an appropriate framework for solving problems with Israel. Baker said it was significant that the statement did not say the appropriate framework, meaning they were locked in to only one solution. Baker arrived in Cairo tonight to confer with officials here. Egypt is the only Arab country to have signed a peace agreement with Israel, and the U.S. is looking to Egypt to persuade other Arab countries that peace is possible. Osama al-Baz, an advisor to President Mubarak, says much will depend on Israel's attitude toward any Arab initiative.
It remains for Israel to be willing to cooperate. They have to negotiate. They cannot set preconditions. They cannot say that such and such is not negotiable. Everything should be negotiable.
But Baker's mission right now is more limited than that. Right now, it is the Arab states which are signaling that they are interested in the peace process. Now Baker has to find out if the Israelis are also willing. Only then can the negotiating begin. Garrick?
All right, John Dancy, stand by there for a moment in Cairo, and let's go to Ed Rabel in Israel. Ed, what is Secretary Baker going to find there when he arrives tomorrow?
Well, Garrick, it'll be turmoil at the very least. 4 Israeli women were stabbed and killed by a young Palestinian man today. An attack the police say is directly related to the Baker visit.
It will be a Jerusalem filled with anger that Secretary Baker will encounter following the stabbings. The victims were Jewish. The Arab who killed them told police he was sending a message to Baker by committing the attack. Earlier in the West Bank, Palestinians demonstrated and burned replicas of the American flag, a reminder that any meeting Baker has with them here will no doubt be trouble. And the Israelis won't make it easy on him either. This morning, Israeli extremists attacked the U.S. Cultural Center in Jerusalem with Molotov cocktails to protest Baker's visit. Then, as if to deliberately torpedo any Baker plan for a Syrian-Israeli peace, Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir today declared the Golan Heights would remain part of Israel. Israel seized the strategic heights from Syria in the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. In case Baker did not get Shamir's message, the Speaker of Israel's parliament on a tour of the Golan today reiterated that the heights were not up for negotiation.
I think that the question about negotiations, it's not a question. Why to talk about it?
The Golan is key to peace in the region, some analysts believe. They say Syria never will consider making a deal with Israel without regaining the territory.
Now we stay on the highland of the Golan Heights. Syria is big enough to remain and to survive without the Golan Heights.
So, Garrick, it's a kind of Middle East catch-22. The Israelis say they want to make a separate deal with their Arab neighbors for peace. But they refuse to relinquish the very thing the Arabs want, their land. So Secretary of State Baker has his work cut out for him.
All right, Ed and John Dancy in Cairo.